All right, so thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for joining us once again in Glenn Vianea's Soccer Show. Today I have a very special guest and my good friend, John Kirka. John, I've known him for the past, 15, 16 years and so forth. But we met
Yeah,
in 2005, wasn't it?
we did, and then we were in the mortgage industry together, mortgage lending, which had a fantastic run. Nothing ever bad ever happened there, right? So
Yes, I can tell you that, especially in 2008. For those of you who are old enough to go ahead and remember that nice year, right? But John, tell us a little bit about yourself. I'm glad you're on the show today. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
well, yeah, one of the things I'm most proud about is being your friend. And we did meet a while back, and we in early, I think 2004, 2005, and bonded over soccer and beer, not necessarily in that order, but yeah. So we
Well,
we enjoy
beer being the first, though.
beer being our first love. Yes.
Well, thank you for being on the show. Actually, this is my second show, and I'm glad you're on here. Last week, we were talking about how soccer is not the most popular sport in the US. And I gave a few points, not all of them, I didn't describe all of them, but one of my points was that soccer doesn't have to be the number one sport. I know I love other sports myself. I know you and me are in the Tumaja League, a shout out to them. Fantasy football, for those of you who don't know. And I'm actually talking to the champion here. But I told the audience that soccer doesn't have to be number one. It just has to be relevant to the fans that are here. And pretty much we have fans of all over the world. But what's your opinion? Why do you think soccer is not the most popular sport in the US compared to other world sports or
Well,
other countries that have soccer as number one?
yeah, well, certainly cultural differences, right? We wouldn't be the first ex-colonial territory of Europe that, especially the United Kingdom, that found its way not only with new governments but also with new favorite pastimes. I think of Australia and their love for rugby. Even Canada with hockey, right? Although I know they're a Commonwealth, and so with us, yeah, we want to be unique in that regard, right? I think of India and their love for cricket, right? And I know they love soccer too. But so we want to be unique in that respect. But as an American, Americans, it sounds weird, but we love rules and we love objectivity, right? And in soccer, you have a lot of things that are maybe a little subjective, right? What's a foul? What's not a foul? For goodness sake, you don't really even know when the game's going to end, right? Because you have the time added on
It's a
for
big
injury.
equation.
Yeah, and then in soccer, we know this: the best team doesn't always necessarily win, right? You're not necessarily rewarded for positive play. A lot of times in soccer, you can be the team that disrupts positive play, and the result can be a 0-0 victory, a 1-0 victory, a narrow defensive battle. And that can. I think as Americans, as much as we say we don't like rules, we don't like big government, I think Americans, at least with their sports, like organization, objectivity, certainty about things, and they like the results to always show that the better team has won. So I would say that's it.
Oh, good opinion. Good opinion. Well, I also, my other argument is despite all this, I think that soccer is an up and coming sport. Well, it has been since the 70s, with the NASL and the Pelé coming over here. But then we had a turn down. But with the rise of the MLS, what was it now? It's 26 years or 25 years that we've had the MLS. I know you and me are both Galaxy fans. And we do see the rise of the league. I actually was in my first game, as I said last week, with my father back in 1997 in the Rose Bowl. And ever since then, I've seen the evolution of soccer here in the United States. You can see a lot of soccer-only stadiums before we used to go ahead and just play in the football stadiums and so forth. But now I see a lot of up-and-coming teams. I mean, what's your opinion on that? you believe that there is this big soccer explosion just waiting to happen, or do you think it's peaked at its peak?
I don't know if it's peaked. I don't see it necessarily displacing some of the bigger sporting associations and their attraction. But yeah, I think MLS. I agree with you. You made a good point. MLS doesn't need to be number one for it to be relevant. MLS. I remember early in the league getting frustrated with missed traps. Right, someone would pass a ball, from across the field, and the player they were trying to pass it to couldn't trap it. Right, and it's like, why would any American tune into a product where the basic fundamentals of the game are just not being done on the field, right? And now you see the quality of play. MLS games are a very high quality game nowadays. So yeah, and I think the availability of the other leagues, right, through ESPN, um, who else? BN Sports. It's accessible now, right? And especially with the internet, you can go on if you wanted to find a game or find highlights of the game. It's no big deal. But
And that's one of the reasons I brought you on. Apart from being a good friend, I consider Mr. Johnny here an expert in some of the European leagues that are most highly popular, actually, in recent years, with the EPL coming up now on, was it NBC that has the EPL? And we also have La Liga, which is from Spain, and we have some Bundesliga, which is the German league, and so forth. But I just wanted you to just comment just recent activity of those leagues, and especially the young American players that we've seen up and coming in these leagues. For those Americans who do not keep up too much with the United States men's team, I know the women's team's highly popular, but some Americans may not know about the up and coming young players that we have in Europe and in these important leagues. What did you see, especially this weekend, in regards to important games that were played in Europe and the important teams that are having some of these young American players play for them as well?
yeah, it's really been astounding this year to have so many Americans playing at big clubs, right? You have Pulisic over in Chelsea, big club.
Pulisic, yeah.
Yeah, McKenzie playing out in Juventus. I mean, huge. I never thought I'd see an American, especially American midfielder, right? I know he's not an attacker, but American forward player uh, playing for the old lady of Italy, right? That's astounding. You have a player out of. You actually have two Americans that have played for Barcelona this year. Uh, One that was the starting right defender, Serginho Dest. And then over the weekend, we had a really impressive weekend for Americans. You had Tyler Adams, who you would know from MLS, his time in the MLS. He came through with a goal for RB Leipzig. Sargent scored for Werder Bremen. So yeah, it's Christian Pulisic is, now that he seemingly has recovered from his soft tissue injuries with his legs. Looks like he's recovered his starting position on Chelsea. So yeah, it's I don't think we've ever seen so many Americans playing for these type of quality clubs ever. We've had instances in the past like Dempsey playing over in Fulham. Landon Donovan would obviously came up with Bayer Leverkusen.
Tim Howard as well. He played for Manchester, right?
Howard playing for Manchester United, right? And then Donovan, when he returns to Germany, ends up playing a short stint under Klinsmann in Bayern Munich. So yeah, this is about. I don't think we've ever seen anything like this with young Americans playing in top level clubs across Europe.
And we're talking about people that are under 25 years old. So that's a positive as well.
All of them, all the ones that we mentioned, under 25. Yeah.
I mean, with the up and coming World Cup, I mean, we have, for those of people that don't know, we have the World Cup in 2022, correct? But we're also hosting the World Cup along with Mexico and Canada. And it's good to have young players because by the time that World Cup comes up, they're going to be probably in their prime or close to it and so forth.
Yeah, the only thing that makes me a little worried about getting my hopes too high about some, huge World Cup progress or imminent victory. Reminds me of what Pep Guardiola was asked when back in the day, Jack Wilshere, if you remember, was the Arsenal. He was a young midfielder, for creative midfielder from England who was playing for Arsenal, and all of England they went gaga over him because they likened him to something like Lionel Messi, but of the English variety, right? And Pep Guardiola was asked, like, "Are you impressed with Jack Wilshere?" Right, because they were playing in Champions League, Barcelona and Arsenal. And Pep Guardiola kind of gave a, "Why would I be impressed?" He's like, "Just in our academy, we have 20 Jack Wilshers." So every time I see Sek or Tyler Adams or McKenzie, I think to myself, well, Germany, Spain, France, they probably have about 20 versions of that kind of player. So. But it's great that we have that kind of player, that the United States is starting to produce that level of technical player. But we have a lot of catching up.
Yeah, that is true. I do see that in the area, even though it's a weak area, Mexico is still pretty strong, followed by the United States, and every other team is not that strong. So I don't see them having trouble in qualifying for the 2022 Cup. Though, that could be said from last time as well, and that big failure that we had as well there too. But at the same time, I am optimistic about the future and so forth. And talking about Pulisic, he actually has a new coach. I actually was reading on ESPN today that Lampard was let go, right? And then they have the ex-coach of Paris Saint-Germain, Tuchel. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. What's your opinion on that? You think it'll be good for Pulisic? And I know that he was the coach for the German side, right? His last club, Dortmund.
Yeah, Tuchel was a very successful coach at Dortmund, and granted, he was a short stint there, and then he went over to become the coach at PSG. So yeah, I think that'll be good. The problem with Chelsea is they have a lot of talent in the forward positions. So if you think about just the 3 players they brought in over the summer transfer window, Kai Havertz, who came over from Bayer Leverkusen, Timo Werner, who was from RB Leipzig, and then Ziyech from Ajax, right, in Holland. I mean, it's a crowd, and they have Mason Mount. It is a very talented attacking set of creative midfielders, attackers, along with other guys they already have there, like Abraham, Giroud. So it'll be interesting to see. I think that's what got Lampard in trouble, right? He didn't really know how to set his lineup, and didn't know how to integrate some of the high purchase signings they had over the summer.
As you can see, ladies and gentlemen, Johnny is a big encyclopedia of European soccer over here. So that's why I want to have him on the show, and also to help him pay his light bill. As you can see here, he's always in the dark.
Yeah, well, I'm so successful that I'm here. I'm holed up on the second floor of my in-laws' house,
Yes.
And lighting. They're family, and they still shut the lights off on me up here. So I'm gonna go.
Well, one last thing I wanted to ask you, Johnny. There is also, I know there was a bunch of FA Cup games today and on Sunday and so forth, but also the Italian league has their FA Cup. I mean, well, not equivalent to FA Cup, but there is quite an attractive matchup tomorrow between AC Milan and Juventus, with Ibrahimovic, which we are very familiar with. He played here in LA, along with Ronaldo tomorrow. What's your prediction on that one?
Well, you caught me. Serie A isn't the sport I follow too much, although I have liked what AC Milan have done this year. So I want to go with AC Milan and say they'll win. But how about you? What do you think? I'm not so much a Serie A guy.
I do not. I'd still follow Ibrahimovic, even though he was a little bit, of a jerk here in LA. I still admire the guy for his talent. He was just, even though he just played a couple of years here, or just 2.5 and so forth, I still consider him like one of the best talents MLS ever had. And just the way he scored and the way his presence, the way he was almost unguardable in the way he scored goals and so forth. So I kind of keep taps of him in AC Milan, and he's been a big part of their success this year. So I would have to go with maybe a tie or a 2-1 for AC Milan.
Yeah, yeah, I'll tune into that game. Be nice to watch that and then catch up. I do have a question for you because we're talking about soccer and we can't. I know we probably should not bring this up because it's a bit of a downer. But how do you think, relative to other sports, not having fans in the stands during the pandemic has affected soccer relative to other sports? Has it had more of a detrimental effect on the play on the field, and the results maybe you were expecting, and just the enjoyability of some of these games?
I think all three are affected, but more than anything, I think that soccer really does benefit from a home advantage. I'm not to say that you can't beat a team on the road. I mean, of course, if you're a better team, you're going to go ahead and win in any stadium. But if you go, like, let's say the EPL, or even if you're in LA, right? You come over here, and let's say we're playing against our rivals now, LAFC. Wouldn't you want to beat them in your home turf or have a better chance to beat them in their home turf than to go over there by the Coliseum with those rowdy fans on top of you? I mean, if you're a good team, you're a good team, but still there's a psychological factor there. And people do take that into effect. And in soccer, I think that's a real thing, especially in international competition, right? You know, when European teams or CONCACAF teams or African, whatever conference you're at, you have to go to the other person's stadium. It's like a handicap in a horse racing, correct? You kind of give them a little bit of percentage points leaning towards the home team because that's a real thing. You have your fans there, the energy's with you, and so forth. So that, I think, has been lost in soccer.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And if anyone wants any testimony to what you just said, look up the Man City bus ride into Anfield at Liverpool when they were playing the return leg against Liverpool. And Man City had to visit, they were playing the second leg of Champions League. And the bus was surrounded by what looked to be about 60,000 Liverpool fans throwing.
Well, that's not always good either because you'll get suspended as well. But
yeah, that's not always good. But I can't believe that being anyone in that bus, you step off that bus and your head is right for playing 90 minutes of soccer. But yeah,
it is an intimidation factor.
It is, yes.
All right. Well, I think that's all the time we have for this week. I'm glad that you were with us this week and so forth. Hopefully you can come on a little bit more. Maybe we can go ahead and discuss on a weekly basis other games and factors that are going on.
Yeah, we'll see if I can get the lighting fixed by then.
Just pay the bill. Good old check.
I'd be taking the next call from the back of a van, but yeah.
As long as you got a little headphone light, we're all good. All right, guys. Thank you very much, Johnny. And thank you very much, everyone. Please subscribe to my channel down at the bottom. And please leave your comments. If you have any topics that you want me and John to talk about and so forth, please go ahead and let us know.